Well, it's Friday night in Shelby County, and you know what that means. It is time for another Football Friday night here in Alabama. I'm Andrew Simonson here with Tyler Raley here. We're from the Shelby County Reporter, and this is the Shelby County Football Pregame Show. It's week 6 of the high school football season. We've got a full slate of 9 non-region games for you tonight within the HSAA, as well as some 8-man action for you as well in the AISA and the ACSC. We have Tyler down there at Spain Park High School, while I am here at Leeds Middle School, getting ready for Briarwood Christian and Leeds as one of our games of the week. Our other game of the week, which we'll talk about in a little bit, was Thompson and Clay Chalkville, which happened last night. But Tyler, as you're settling in there at Bob Finley Field, what's the atmosphere like? What's the excitement like for tonight?
Well, Andrew, nobody's in here currently at the moment. They're still waiting to let people in here at Spain Park, but I can guarantee you this place will be packed tonight as Spain Park looks to get back in the win column against James Clemens in a big non-region game. But I'm excited. This is a big week for our teams and a lot of chances to get back in the win column, get back on track.
Yeah, so let's dive right in. We've got a full slate, like I said, of our teams, and we're going to start down at the 8-man level, down in the ACSC with the Evangel Christian Lightning, freshly up to a 2-3 record. They're going to be taking on Lighthouse in their second ACSC conference game. Tyler, they won their matchup last week in shutout fashion against a rival in Ezekiel. Now they come back home. The Lighthouse Warriors team sitting right at 500 on the year. So what are your expectations for this matchup?
Well, I think the big thing is that you have Eli Black as of last week, man, and this is a team that's riding momentum. You're getting into a 2-3 record. You have a chance to get back to 500. I think for Coach Smith and his squad, it is an opportunity to build a huge bout of momentum here for the Lightning against the Lighthouse team, who is 1-2, a little bit of a struggle at times. I think this is a chance for this team to get on track. And after forcing 3 turnovers last week, I think this Evangel defense has an opportunity to feast on Lighthouse. And Andrew, I do think that Evangel is going to get back in the win column tonight because they have the momentum riding off their big win last week.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you. I think that confidence is going to be their biggest factor that they have in their favor. You can't underestimate what a big result like last week against the rival in Ezekiel can do for you. This is a Lightning team that had a really challenging non-conference schedule, taking on some of the best teams from throughout the Southeast, teams from North Carolina, Louisiana, Tennessee, emerging from that with a 1-3 record. And now they enter the most important stretch of their play, the ACSC play, and they just have all their momentum stemming from that battle-tested nature that they got early on in the season, but they responded to those tests so well last week. I think they've got the defense in particular to neutralize this Lighthouse side, and I think that that's going to shine through in a little bit of a closer game to get to the second level of ACSC play. They'll go from here into a really good backstretch where they'll face 2 really good teams in both East Central and Southern Christian. But for now, I like the Lightning to get to 2-0 in the ACSC play. And now let's move into our other 8-man matchup tonight, and it's a big-time rivalry battle right here in Shelby County, as you have the Cornerstone Christian Chargers up at 4-0 up in AISA Class A. They're taking on the 2-2 Coosa Valley Rebels. Tyler, these are 2 teams that really don't like each other, but it could be one of those matchups where it could be a little bit more interesting than I think some of the underlying numbers can say.
Right. I think because it's a rivalry game and you've got a Coosa Valley team who has felt the light, felt the positivity throughout this year. I think Coosa Valley can, if they come out with a hot start, make this a little challenging against Cornerstone. But I think you look at this Cornerstone team, man, and when you got a duo like Jackson Moore and Malachi Adams in their rushing game and combining for 225 yards in their last match, man, I think this Cornerstone team is just going to be a little too difficult to stop. And if you're Coosa Valley, you got to find all you can do. Will Michael Goebbels be playing again in place of Braylon Smalls after he got injured last week? We will definitely see. I think that can play a big factor in whether Coosa Valley gets some momentum going or not, because most quarterbacks have shown signs of success. It's just a matter of who will play tonight. But I do think Cornerstone is going to be a little too tough to stop, and the boys from Columbiana are going to get the win.
Yeah, exactly. I'm right here with you. I think Coosa Valley's potential within this game definitely stems from its offensive explosiveness, and that's going to depend on the health of Braylon Smalls to see what he's going to do there. We still don't have an update as of game time, whether he's going to go or not, so it'll be interesting to see how he goes there. But this Cornerstone team is absolutely incredible right now. We thought there'd be a little bit of a fall off from last year, and there's been absolutely no signs for that to be the case this year. Definitely dominating on the run with a ground game dominated by Jackson Moore and Malachi Adams. But it's this defense that continues to keep this team flowing in games, even in shootouts like against Trinity Christian. And I think that if this Coosa Valley team comes to play, they could definitely make it into a little bit of a shootout as well, which is why I like Cornerstone to get those stops versus a Coosa Valley team that's been a little bit more error prone on defense, not as able to get more frequent stops. So I like the Chargers to get a win in that one, move to 5-0 and halfway to another perfect season. So let's hit the AHSAA, and we're going to go up in order through these matchups tonight. We're going to start down in Class 2A with Vincent taking on Childersburg. It's a 3-1 Vincent team that's up to number 7 within the Class 2A rankings on a 3-game win streak right now, and really definitely in a good spot as they hit this non-region week. And we can't say the same for Childersburg after a 1-9 season last year. The Class 3A Tigers are down at 0-5 this year. And Tyler, this is a Vincent team that had an absolutely strong performance last week against then number 8 Sullivan. And we'll have to see if they're able to carry that momentum over into this week's matchup.
Well, I think the key for Vincent right now is the fact that they haven't given up more than 20 points all season. It's been down in 18 or less mode for this Yellow Jacket defense. I think they got to be really optimistic about that for a guy like Lucas Weatherford, who loves his tough defense, loves his guys to make plays, be very active. That's got to be a really positive sign, especially heading into a game where you're facing an offense that has been really struggling at the 0-5 start for Childersburg, like you mentioned. But on the other side, you look at a guy like James Roberts, who's difficult on the run and the running attack to get down. 119 yards last week, 2 touchdowns. And then you got two guys like Landon Archer and Zach Moorhead who can both make plays on the defensive side, like I mentioned earlier. I think it's an easy chance for Vincent to be able to come out here on fire, get another pickup, an easy win, and really use the ground game to their advantage.
Yeah, it's a really easy to like this Jackets team when you have an offense like you just mentioned with guys like Landon Archer, Jaden Roberts, Lane Mims, Zach Moorhead. But it's when those guys flip over to defense that I think this team has been the most impressive. You just see these guys on the stat sheet just light it up every single week. Double-digit tackles, big-time plays all over the field. This is a very hungry team and a team that loves to get after the ball. That's going to be one of their advantages going into tonight against Childersburg. You get those stops early and often, give your offense some more time to work and put up some points and put this one away early, because you have a massive matchup next week against Tuscaloosa Academy that could very much decide the region like it did last year. So definitely interested to see if the Jackets are going to be able to get a good start within this one and be able to rest some starters as much as they can, being a Class 2A team, getting a massive win in the process. Let's move up to Class 5A right now and head down to Homewood, where the Montevallo Bulldogs are going to face off against the John Carroll Cavaliers. And you look at these two teams, Tyler, both enter this game with 1 win on the year. Montevallo, that would be their opener against Carrot, and they've lost 3 straight going into their bye week. Well, John Carroll has had an extremely difficult schedule to this point, picking up that lone win against Hayden, but also facing teams like Homewood and Ramsey in the process. Going to be an interesting battle here between two teams that really need a spark.
Well, I think when you think about this Montevallo team, yeah, we've talked about their struggles all season, but when you get into this week, for Montevallo, it's a matter of you have to win these next 2 games if you want to gain any sort of momentum against a John Carroll team who, like you said, has 1 win on the season, and then next week against Selma, who is also down. I think it's a matter of, for Montevallo, will the defense be able to step up against John Carroll and be able to make the stops necessary to win this ball game? I think when you look at this team, it's a matter of, can you stop John Carroll quarterback Garrett Barnes from getting hot? Because yeah, he is kind of young in this sense of experience mode, but he's gained confidence over the years, as Will Mira told me at the beginning of the season. I think it's a matter of just making sure that if you are Montevallo, you execute the simple things right. Try and get a little bit of positive momentum on your side, especially on the road at John Carroll. This is a big game for both teams, Andrew, and I'll just be interested to see. I do think John Carroll comes out with a win based on some of their offensive success over the course of this year, but I think it'll be closer than some people think.
Yeah, because I think you have these two teams. Obviously, this is a non-region game, so the playoff stakes are out of this. But you've just got two teams that are hungry for a win, and that's what they're going to come out to this game looking to do right now, is to just get on the victory column within this matchup. And like you said, John Carroll definitely showing some explosiveness on the offensive side. You look at that matchup against Hayden; they were able to put up some points there, and they faced some really strong defenses. I'd argue stronger defenses than what Montevallo has faced to this point, despite coming off of 2 tough matchups against Northside and Demopolis, arguably 2 of the best teams within that region that they have down there in Class 5A. So I'll be really interested to see if this Montevallo team can stop some of the big plays from John Carroll's offense, but more importantly, just come together as a unit, put together some drives on the offensive side, and just really go for broke in a matchup like this. Try some things and really get yourself into a shape to where you can contend in these matchups down the road. It's this matchup, like you said, the Selma matchup as well. And then you've got games in Jemison and even Vincent that this team could be looking up towards the end of the season despite this down start. I'm like you. I do think the Cavs are going to pull this out, but it's going to be a really close one and potentially a fun one there down at John Carroll. Some stadium renovations going down there as well, so it should be a really good matchup as well. But before we let you go, we would want to let you know about Montevallo Main Street, our sponsor for the Shelby County Football Show and the Montevallo Bulldogs. And whether it's Friday Night Lights or a quiet Saturday stroll, there's always something special happening on Montevallo Main Street. From unique shops and local dining to community traditions and small town charm, it's the kind of place where neighbors gather and Bulldog pride runs deep. Make downtown part of your routine before the game, after the game, and all year long at Montevallo Main Street. A couple of great events coming up, including the Art Stock on October 25th and then the Day of the Dead Festival on November 1st. So definitely make sure that you get down there in the next few weeks, and heck, even this weekend. A great weekend and a beautiful one to get outside and do some awesome stuff this weekend. Now we're going to move over to the Shelby County Wildcats as they travel over to Odenville to take on the St. Clair County Saints. And this is an intriguing matchup for me for multiple reasons. And I really think it does stem from these two teams being a little bit similarly built. And definitely both in a good spot compared to where they were last season. Shelby County at 3-2, obviously a little bit down from where they were a year ago, but St. Clair County a little bit up as well. But this is a team that's not very battle-tested, are the Saints. So I'm really interested to see how they're going to fare in this matchup against the Shelby County team that is one of their tougher tests to date this season outside of Ruby.
Well, I think when you look at this game, it's a real chance for Ryan Sipes to kind of prove himself. Like you said, this St. Clair County team is not real battle tested. And when you look at their prior schedule, they're 3-1 on the year. Their wins being against Jemison, a Montgomery Catholic team who lost their really talented head coach and center point, and their loss was a big shutout to Moody. I think if you're Ryan Sipes, you've got to take this opportunity to really get better as a quarterback, utilize your offensive weapons when you can, and make some plays to prove any doubters wrong right now. I think Shelby County, like you said, although they're a little bit down, they've still got as much momentum as they did last year when they had that first half undefeated start. And really, after a loss to Northside last week, you need, if you're the Shelby County offense, to get back on track, make some plays, get yourself in a positive track, and go on a road against the St. Clair County team who has the ability to score some points. When you look at St. Clair County scoring 37.5 points per game, it's a real battle test, and I think that's going to be tough for this Shelby County team to overcome. Unfortunately, I do think St. Clair County gets the win tonight, but I do think Shelby County takes some strides in the right direction.
Yeah, I think Shelby County is going to have a really good chance within this matchup, but I'm on the opposite side of the ball as you. I think the defense is going to be really tested against the St. Clair County team that outside of that 55-0 has had a pretty good showing for itself right here with those 3 wins against Jemison Catholic and Center Point. So it was a shootout style team last year, and I think it could be this way again. So I do really think that they're going to have to stop some of the big plays on the defensive side, but the offense I really do think is in the best spot that it's been in quite some time, probably the entire Zeb Ellison era, because of the playmakers that they have both in the pass game and the run game. Yeah, they don't have an Anthony Palmieri-sized threat anymore, but lots of weapons and a good diverse group of guys that they have out there that they can make some plays happen with. So I expect Shelby County's gains on the offensive side to be enough to get them over the line and get them a win in a very close road battle. That should be this one. But we're also going to go just a little bit over to Oxford for what should be another really entertaining battle and a potential shootout, as well as Helena takes on Oxford. You got two teams that perennially like to think about themselves as some of the top teams within Class 6A, but they're a little bit down this year. Helena sitting at 1-3 following an absolutely brutal schedule to start the season. Losses against McAdory, against Spain Park, and then last week against Bowie, the #1 team down in Class 5A. And you got an Oxford team that's struggling a little bit as well, and they're coming off a blowout loss to Mountain Brook as well. So this is going to have to be a get-right game for both teams. Tyler, I'm curious how you see it.
Well, here's the thing, Andrew, and I saw this Helena team last week. I think, despite that loss, they're feeling really good about themselves. I think this team performed out of their minds last week in gut check to be able to make this game close. We saw 3 interceptions from this Helena defense last week, and I think if they can create some turnovers against a powerful Oxford squad, they've got a chance to get out in front and create some momentum for themselves, especially with Nate Ferguson playing the way he is. A key touchdown to Davis Kelly last week, and a high point with Bradley Wainwright playing as well as he did in the receiving corps. Now, I think if you are Helena's defense, though, you've got to make a point to stop Caleb Wynn. He's a 3-star running back for Oxford. He's really powerful, has that brute force to be able to break first contact and break off a run. I think if you can stop that, that's what Oxford likes to lean on a lot, force them into their pass game, and then utilize that defense to create some turnovers. I think for Helena, if they can do that, that's the key to winning this game. I think the offense will be just fine. It'll be a real battle, just like it was against Moody last week. And I do think those Huskies go on the road and get a win in the midst of this 5-game road stretch, Andrew.
Yeah, this is an incredibly lopsided game last year, but Oxford without an ACC level quarterback right over there. But now I really do think this is a lot more even matchup, despite some of what Helena has presented this season. But I'm with you. I really am impressed by how they are able to tackle that Moody team last week and give them a real run for their money. I think that they got a lot of confidence in that, and they've shown a lot of gains in maturity over the last couple of weeks. And I think that they put themselves in a good position, just like they had last year, to where they could really take advantage down the stretch and get themselves back up to 500 and make themselves a playoff contender within that crowded Class 6A Region 3. Obviously, this is a non-reaching game, but this is an incredibly good opportunity for you going into a matchup next week against Ben Russell, where if you get a little bit of momentum here, you figure out a little bit more about how you're going to look, especially on the defensive side. You got to feel good about your chances going into that matchup next week against Ben Russell. I'm with you. I think it's going to be a really good, really close, really high-scoring matchup. And I think the Helena Huskies are going to come out victorious in that one. We're going to keep it within Class 6A right here as well for a homecoming matchup for the Chelsea Hornets as they take on the Paul W. Bryant Stampede. It's a Stampede team that is 0-4 on the season, has been really struggling. This was a blowout matchup last year on the road over in Tuscaloosa. Now they come over here for a homecoming game for a Chelsea team that got a massive bounce back win last week against Calera. Still a few kinks to iron out for this team. But Tyler, what are you seeing out of this Chelsea team, and what do you expect to see out of this matchup?
I mean, really, there's not much to say here, Andrew. When you look at this Paul Bryant team being outscored 127-12 over the first half of this season, I just like Chelsea to be able to come out there, do their job on homecoming, make their running game really known between Morgan Barnes and Chase Malone after having 259 yards rushing combined between the two of them. It's just a matter of how many running yards are they going to get. And I do think Chelsea executes. They make it simple, light work, easy. Chelsea's going to come out there, get the win against a Paul Bryant team that is really struggling to find their stride.
Absolutely. And I agree with you. I think this is going to be a really lopsided game within Chelsea's favor. I think they've got the offensive firepower to make a big difference in this matchup, especially on the ground with Chase Malone and Morgan Barnes continuing to have strong weeks. If they have a few wrinkles within the pass game, this is going to be a dangerous offense to contend with come the back half of region play. But this defense, I think, needs to have a great night after giving up some big plays through the first few weeks in the season. If they're able to come out tonight, even post a shutout, would be the best case scenario. I think they've got a lot to look forward to. You go into a matchup next week against Chilton County. That's going to be another big matchup within region play that they will be favored in. I think this team starts to get a little bit of momentum under itself before they face some big tests down the stretch and matchups like against Spain Park and like against Helena and against Ben Russell as well. So I like the Hornets to win big on homecoming. My bold prediction going into the week was that they'd break the school points record. We'll see if that happens. It requires 70 points to make it happen. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see what the Hornets are able to do in front of their home crowd on homecoming. Shout out to the homecoming king, Porter Shot as well. Linebacker going to be lining up for them as well. Before we move on to the next matchup, I do want to back up to our sponsor for the Helena Huskies, the Oak Mountain Hearing Association. Don't let hearing loss bench you this season. At Oak Mountain Hearing, we help you stay in the game so you don't miss a single play this season. Whether you need help with hearing aids, hearing loss, or tinnitus, Oak Mountain Hearing is here to help. Now open the telephone, call 205-728-1690 to set up a consultation. Don't let hearing loss sideline you this football season. And let's move on as we continue to go through these matchups in advance of our game of the week. We've got a few big matchups still left on the slate. But now we're going to talk a little bit about this Thompson matchup that happened last night. Our game of the week matchup. Tyler, you were there with me as well. Thompson gets that win in 28-24 fashion. Really curious how you saw that matchup being out there at the end zone as Blake Chalkville got that win. Excuse me.
It was a really weird game, and I think I told multiple people last night, Andrew, it lived up to the hype of the game of the year, but it felt also lackluster at times. Really, it was just a few big plays that decided that game. Really starting with the turn of the century with Colton McIntyre, defensive lineman for Clay Chalkville, getting that pick six off of Trent Seaburn early in the second half. I think when you look at what happened in that game, it was a matter of just a few miscues, and then that Clay Chalkville defense getting momentum and then just riding with it. Corey Barber, the former Spain Park transfer, the Ole Miss commit, and he played outstanding last night. And I think what we saw was a Mr. Football type game out of him. It was just tough for that Thompson defense to stop. There was no shame in the loss, but it really leaves a bad taste in your mouth if you're Mark Freeman's squad. Just a few short plays of trying to turn that game into a win. It was just a really fun game all around. The atmosphere was amazing. Everybody was packed in their seats. It just had the whole recipe of being an outstanding instant classic.
Absolutely. I agree with you. It was a phenomenal game to watch last night. I really do want to zoom in on those first few minutes of the second half because I think that was absolutely crucial to decide the outcome of the game. You know, Trent Seaburn lose the ball on that pass to start the third quarter. That ends up being a scoop and score touchdown. And then there's a quick punt right afterwards. And then right afterwards, Blake Chalkville just melted 99 yards down the field for a touchdown. Ate up most of the time of the third quarter and immediately took off a touchdown from that 14-point lead and really left Thompson sitting in a bad spot going into the rest of the game. It was just a team that wasn't able to get over the line offensively. You obviously have that turnover, which was big, and then a couple of drives stall out late in the red zone that really could have given them chances to win. I think they're going to be kicking themselves definitely for leaving some points on the table. But like you said, that's a Clay Chalkville team. That's the #1 team in Class 6A for a reason, and they're my favorites to go on and win the state title. So it's really about how you take those lessons before you go on another trip north of town to face you at Trustville on next Friday in what should be a region title matchup for the Warriors and the Huskies. Now we're going to move over to our two matchups that we've got right here, Spain Park and Briarwood. We're going to start over at Spain Park. Before we do, gotta let you know about our sponsors, Wayne Pest Control, which not only sponsors the Thompson Warriors, but also the Spain Park Jaguars. While Jags and Warriors are playing defense against their opponent, Wayne Pest Control is playing the defense for your home. This football season, don't let mosquitoes, fleas, or ticks sideline your family's outdoor fun. Wayne's environmentally safe mosquito treatments to keep your yard clear, and our affordable Mosquito Plus program will also eliminate fleas and ticks. Protect your family and pets today and take the bite out of the great outdoors. For quality service and peace of mind, trust Wayne's Pest Control. Call 866-WAYNES-1 or visit callwaynes.com to learn more. Let's go over to Spain Park right there at Bob Finley Field for a matchup where the Spain Park Jaguars are going to take on the 2-2 James Club.
Baptist Health is on your team. From everyday care to life's emergencies, we've got you covered. Baptist Health.
I think Andrew may have got cut off. Andrew, are you there?
Yes, I'm there as well. We were just getting ready to talk about the Spain Park and James Clemens matchup. Tyler, I'm curious to hear your thoughts because this game was really close last year. Do you think it's going to be the same way this year?
I think it's an interesting game, Andrew. You look at this James Clemens team; they're a little bit down, and you know they had that win in Week 1 against Gardendale that they had to forfeit. But I think this is a really interesting matchup. It's a game where, if you look at it, I think it could be closer than the experts really think. It's a game where if you're Spain Park, you have to execute on offense and make the stops on defense when you can. And I think Spain Park has all the tools to be able to do what they need to do in order to get a win. I think for Spain Park especially, it's important to get this win after that close loss to Ben Russell last week on the road, what was a fantastic game. And I think if you're Brock Bradley, it's a matter of keep going and going through the motions the way he has done it all year. And Ken Arrigo has done a phenomenal job as his number one receiver. I think Nick McKissick in the backfield has a chance to make a big impact tonight. And then you can't go over the defensive side without mentioning E.J. Curley and the way he's played throughout the year. Been a violent force in that linebacking core. I think it's a time for this defense to really shine, make the plays, and try and send the Jets back up to Huntsville, or Madison, excuse me, with a loss. I think the Spain Park team has what it needs to come out of here with a W, and especially in front of a crowd that's itching for another win here at home in the park.
Yeah, I see this the same way as you. I think it's going to be a good Spain Park victory. But I've been the most impressed by the Spain Park defense so far this season. There's a team that really has a ton of playmakers on its side, and I think it's a little bit of a step above where it was last year. Look over the secondary. Carter Holloway has been an absolute menace over there as a matchup threat, getting a lot of pass deflections for his team and being able to impact a lot of plays. I believe he had 3 last week against Ben Russell. Was a really good showing for him up there. And you just got guys like E.J. Curley and J.D. Bonham patrolling the middle of the field. It's so hard to get those guys contained when they're getting solo tackles after solo tackle all over the field. They really know how to make plays, and they know how to bottle things up before they get to the second level. I think that's what's going to keep them in a good spot within this matchup. I think they're going to get some good stops and let things get too out of hand and really go in over the offensive side. Just let things open up, and what's going to be a good matchup for them before they face the Pelham Panthers next week. The matchup on the side in Class 6A Region 3. That brings us to our second game of the week here tonight at Leeds Middle School, as we can see the Leeds High School Green Wave take on the Briarwood Christian Lions in Class 5A non-region play right here. You have a Leeds team that slipped down to number 9 within the Class 5A rankings this past week after their first loss to Jacksonville, but you've got a Briarwood team that's right up on the heels of a top 10 spot. They've got 2 straight wins in region play under their belt. They're 1 win away from wrapping up that region championship. Can do so next week against Corner. But right now, there's a chance for them to replicate what they did last season, which is get a big offensive showing and a solid win against one of the perennial contenders there over in Class 5A. And before we get too deep in this matchup, I want to let you know about one of our friends in the Air Services. We've heard a lot about them last 2 seasons. They're a proud sponsor of the Briarwood Christian Lions. Since 2005, 3D Air Services is proudly called Shelby County home. We're molding a trusted HVAC company. They're your neighbors, friends, and supporters. From keeping your home comfortable year-round to sponsoring school and athletic programs, they are committed to making a difference in our community. Just ask your neighbor. Chances are they've already been there. As proud sponsors of Briarwood, 3D Air believes in the power of teamwork, dedication, and community spirit, values they carry with them in every job they do. 3D Air Services is your trusted neighbor, keeping Shelby County comfortable one home at a time. Tyler, what are your thoughts here as Briarwood and Leeds are about 45 minutes away from getting underway?
My main thing right now, I think that I'll start off with, is the fact that if you're Leeds, this game last year, Andrew, just had to have left a terrible taste in your mouth. If you're Leeds, you were 5-0 at this point, and for Briarwood, they were 0-5, and Leeds went on the road and lost to Briarwood, and it actually ended up being a table turn for them. As to why Briarwood did not get the playoffs, they went 5-0 the rest of the season and finished that back half off strong, which is kind of led into this season. I think if you're Leeds, it is an interesting standpoint because they have a lot of young players in the terms of maybe their field experience isn't as high as some teams in the state of Alabama, but they have a lot of talented players. I think that starts with quarterback Sam Waller and the way he can move the ball, get the ball out into his weapons, especially Taylor Gayer. They're one of their leading wide receivers. I think those two will be a key to watch tonight against a very good Briarwood defense that we have seen shine all season long. And then in the backfield, you've got a small kid, 5'8", like Quintus Meadows, who's very shifty, can be a little bit of a thumper at times. I think those 3 are going to be a key to watch. And if they can have a little bit of success against this Briarwood defense, I think they can go on to do big things. But Andrew, like you said, this Briarwood team, man, it is something to behold because they've had 3 straight wins. They're getting into a deep part of their schedule where they need a good bit of success, and I think this game can prove a lot tonight. If they can go on the road to Homer Smiles and win this game against a perennial coach in Jerry Hood, I think you've got a lot of chance to go into the back half of the schedule with a lot of success and make some noise there in Class 5A as a potential title contender. It's going to be really interesting to see if Charles Deadman can lead his offense to the win and Garrett Witherington can wreak havoc in the backfield as he's always done.
Yeah, it's been funny to see this team progress over the course of the season because we came into this season, I think a lot of people considered Briarwood as state title contenders along with Leeds, despite some of the people that they lost from last year. But Briarwood definitely had a slow start out of the gate, and it did come to they faced teams like Oak Mountain and Homewood in the first 2 games of the season. But instead of last season, it was snowballed into a 5-game losing streak. You saw that switch against Ramsey. They started to get all those guys involved, like Jameson. Sorry. My brain is thinking Jameson Barnes. I'm sorry. Jameson Barnes, Jackson Ryer, Eli Thompson, those guys in the backfield. They've done such a good work for this team, and they keep adding wrinkles week after week, which is the insane thing. They got a chance against the Winona team in a little bit of a wild game to get Charles Deadman the ball, and he absolutely set the tone. One of the best matchups of his career are really getting the air attack going with guys like Sam Raley. So I think this team, this is the matchup right here where I think they start to put a lot of people back on notice as one of the contenders within Class 5A. I know a couple of people definitely wrote them off after that slow start, but after seeing this team the last few weeks, trust me, you do not want to face this team down the stretch, and I like them against just about anybody in these final few games. I think there's going to be a really good matchup between these 2 teams, but I think the more momentum is in the Lions' favor, the better that they will fare in this matchup. And I really do like Briarwood to take advantage of that compared to a Leeds team that's coming after a loss right now against Jacksonville. So I do like the Lions to win. Tyler likes to put up a good performance as well. That's going to do it for us here with the Shelby County Pregame Show. We've got just about 40 minutes left until kickoff. So get settled in, get over to the stadium if you can. And I do want to remind you, you can follow our updates all night long here on Twitter at Andrew T. Simonson. While we get Briarwood giving you updates from there. Tyler will be over at Spain Park at T. Raley 34 is where you can find him as well. We'll also have Daniel Locke and Dave Domestic over at Chelsea and Shelby County games. Make sure you follow them on Twitter as well. We'll have some updates from other games as they roll in as well. And as always, make sure you check out our website after the game for stories and photos and all the videos that we'll have coming up as well. We want to make sure that you stay live. With that content through tonight and into the morning tomorrow, as we recap all the amazing action for you from week 6 of the Alabama High School football season. That's going to do it for us here from the Shelby County Pregame Show. We want to give one last thank you to our sponsors, Wayne's Pest Control, Community Air Services, Montebello, Main Street, the Oak Mountain Steering Association, for making this all possible for us here at the Shelby County Reporter. For Tyler Raley, my name is Andrew Simonson. Have a good night, everybody, and we'll see you on the other side as great matchups get underway here in Shelby County.